Welcome to From the Trenches, success shortcuts revealed by real-world innovators crushing it right now. I'm your host, Scott Hartley, and we're back with another episode packed with actionable strategies from today's most successful entrepreneurs. If you're tired of generic business advice and ready for real cutting-edge tactics that are working right now, you're in the right place. Now, I'd like to have you take just a moment and kind of picture this scenario here. What does your office look like? If your office is littered with piles of I'll get to them one day papers, do you have drawers and file cabinets overflowing with who knows what? Maybe you have stacks of unread books and boxes of just in case materials. And maybe you've put aside time to get it organized, and then you give up, and then the clutter always returns. Well, today I'd like you to meet Carla Zwaan, a certified productive environment specialist. She helps entrepreneurs transform chaotic office and digital spaces into productive powerhouses. If you're drowning in email, which I think most of us are, her digital transformation streamlines your workflow and makes your email time more efficient and effective. If you need structure for your tasks and your projects so that you can get more done, she's got you covered. And for those in office crisis, she'll guide you through a VIP office transformation, and in 8 hours can turn your crisis into a new flowing system. In short, Carla makes your chaos her problem and simply solves it for you so that you can focus on what truly matters. Carla, I'm so excited to have you on the podcast today.
I'm really excited to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. So, as an entrepreneur, of course, I'm one of those, type A personalities, very perfectionistic, and all of that. And so, I have places for all of my stuff. But after a while, like there's just sometimes it's like, okay, I'm tired of organizing. And like I look over at my desk and I do have a stack starting to starting to pile up on the corner. And just kind of like different times. And then, I just kind of like let go of that organization. And then when I look at it, I'm like, oh, I got to do something with it. And then the dread kind of comes, right?
Right, right.
So I think a lot of entrepreneurs kind of face this challenge and this struggle of how do we keep things organized so that when we need it, we know exactly where to go, we can get it, and when we can be efficient and productive with our time. So I'm really interested into hearing kind of the insights and the systems and the processes that you help people put into place. But before we kind of dive into that, I'd like to kind of hear your journey. Like how did you, get into this world of helping people, become productive in their environments?
Yeah, no, again, thank you so much for having me. It really is a pleasure to be here with you today. It's funny because when you had asked me to be on your podcast, and to be interviewed, I thought to myself, I typically don't put myself in the spotlight. So I'm usually doing all the behind the scenes and the organizing and getting things done. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm excited to talk about how my passion for organizing and helping others, can help entrepreneurs. And what I'm calling it is Carla 2.0, or, Carla, my new adventure. And, so back, it's funny, back when I was a child, my mom would get these phone calls from my friends' parents, and they would say to her, we always know when Carla was over because when we walk in to my child's room, everything is organized and in place. And so I have to be honest, I mean, back then I was so embarrassed about that. But
Mm-hmm.
then I quickly realized, through life that this really is my passion and it's something that I really enjoy. So, I go back to my corporate days where I would always go, gravitate toward roles where I would be helping organize and plan systems, with
Mm-hmm.
customer service or with human resources. I would also plan events and, for big corporate, for the bigger corporate departments or for the small, like board member events.
Mm-hmm.
And then, fast forward here, it is 2015, and I meet Brian Kurtz, and he had just founded Titans Marketing. And he had said to me, would you be interested? He offered me the job, and I came on as an executive assistant.
Mm-hmm.
During my time with Brian, the role quickly changed and I became the bookkeeper for the business, managing all of the back end policies and procedures for the Titans memberships that we have. I book all the travel and, plan all and arrange the travel for the business. And in doing the events, I realized that, there was always this underlying theme. I'm proud to say that we hosted over 30 live events,
Oh, wow.
and it's been an incredible journey. And
Yeah.
people would always come over to me and say, how do you do this? I need a Carla in my life. And we would joke and laugh about it. But then the next question would be, is there anyone that that does what you do? And my answer was always no.
Yeah.
So now I'm at this time where I'm in my 50s, my kids are in college, and I think to myself, how can I take my expertise of helping organize others and help entrepreneurs? Because exactly what you said, the entrepreneurs usually focus on their creative genius.
Hmm.
That's what their focus is on the day to day. And what tends to happen is the back end pieces end up falling through the cracks, and
Yep.
there's no system in place to help manage that. So with my, expertise in organizing and, having gone through the certification to be a productive environment specialist, I'm feeling that need to help entrepreneurs. Um, I was lucky enough during the time when Brian hired me that he had asked, how do you feel about organizing my office? And I had said, I'm actually up for the challenge. And he said, well, how do you feel if I hire Barbara Hemfeld? And for those of you who don't know who Barbara is, she is the original office productivity and organization guru.
Okay.
She wrote a book called Taming the Paper Tiger in the 1980s. And she's most well known for her quote, clutter is postponed decisions. And and since then she's written so many other books. She's
Hmm.
done spin-offs and different editions of Taming the Paper Tiger. But at the time, she had spent the day with Brian and I, and it was amazing because, we had focused on just what our immediate needs were, but
Hmm.
then she gave us a game plan, a procedure to follow to organize the rest of the office.
Hmm.
And to this day, we're still using the same system that was 10 years ago.
Oh, wow.
And
Awesome.
the most incredible piece to the system that no other office productivity management tool offers is that we have a finding system, not only a filing system. So we
Interesting.
can find anything in seconds. Just the other day, we're recording this in tax season, and just the other day, I had a client come call me and say, I just have to tell you, it was amazing. My bookkeeper didn't know where to find this particular piece of paper that she had needed. And she said she took out her phone, she accessed the finding system, and she was able to tell her bookkeeper within seconds where to find the piece of paper.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah,
That's fantastic. And
it
I
was
like that little twist on it, because everybody talks about a filing system, which is great. But the purpose of the filing system is so that you can find it at a later time when you need it, right? But nobody ever
exactly
talks about, finding the information. So,
right, exactly.
yeah, I love that, and I love the backstory because it sounds like that this was really just kind of like an innate ability skill that you had way back in childhood that you really had no idea back then that it's like, oh, this is going to turn into an opportunity for me to help others way into the future. But it's really cool kind of how that journey has really kind of come full circle, and that now you're able to bring this to businesses.
Definitely. Yeah. It is. Like I said, there's definitely a void with entrepreneurship. It's again, the focus is the big picture. And if I'm able to come in and help others organize their space and to give them one system that, it's a lifelong system, you're never going to have to pivot and go to another one. It's an incredible experience.
Yeah, awesome. Well, what I'd like to do is, kind of dive into some tactical takeaways that, that people, really can, listen to this podcast and implement one or two things, to kind of get them on that path of, how do I organize the clutter in my office and, just kind of create maybe a finding system or whatever that looks like. But what's, kind of the starting point when you start to work with somebody and I'm sure that different offices look totally different. Some are probably really chaotic. what's kind of the starting point? Where should somebody begin when they're looking at like, I got to get this stuff organized?
Yeah. Well, the first thing, if you're doing it independently, I would say is to just start with a small stack of papers.
Mhm.
Many times people will say to me, well, how long is this going to take? And how much, because I don't have a lot of time. Well, the reality is that we have to give the time. If you're
Mhm.
unorganized and you want to become organized, you have to put in the time.
Yeah.
And the other piece is it's painful sometimes, but we make it fun. And you have to take a small piece of paper, a small pile of papers, and you start one by one. And what we call that process our file act toss system.
Hmm.
And it's funny, the acronym is FAT, and sometimes we say it's trimming the fat from your office.
Uh-huh.
So it's kind of a cool acronym. But the first thing you would do is look at a piece of paper and you can ask yourself, do I need to file this? Is it in action or can I toss it?
Hmm.
So it's a quick and easy way to get through a pile of paper quickly. We
Hmm.
also have specific questions when we're working with clients, to ask to help them get through that process. But that would be step one.
Okay. And so, a lot of people I think probably kind of maybe get hung up on the step of, okay, do I need to keep this?
Right.
It may be something that's like, okay, I definitely don't need to take action on it. Either I've already taken action on it or there's no action required. But then they get stuck in that dichotomy of like, oh, am I going to need this in the future? Or can I really get rid of it? I mean, we find that even in our personal lives as well. It's like,
Right.
well, I don't really wear that shirt that often, but And so like when it comes to the office, what's an easy way for somebody to quickly make that decision? Because you don't want to spend 30 minutes on a stack of papers when you really could go through it in 10.
Right, right. Well, we do have a series of questions that we ask, that we, have the clients ask themselves when they're
Huh?
going through them. And, we've named it the art of waste basketry because in reality, that's exactly what you said. You get stuck, and you get hung up on things.
Yeah.
And, a couple of the questions is, can I identify a specific use for this?
Hmm.
Is it difficult to obtain again? And one of the big questions is, what's the worst thing that can happen if I end up getting rid of this today?
Right.
We do help people, with that process along the way. So.
Sure. Yeah. I think, having, somebody like you to guide, through that process, because as you're getting started, obviously it's going to be uncomfortable. And you're not really going to know, exactly, the way to be the most efficient. But, in my mind, it's like, even if you have a stack of papers and you're able to whittle it down by, a third or a fourth, that's going to help you start to overcome, that clutter.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, in the office, we do office transformations and digital transformations. And what's nice about it is the methodology and the principles aligned for both systems.
Okay.
We have, just for example, you have, your inbox, your mailbox, right? So
Hmm.
you've got your mailbox at the end of your driveway where you're getting, your physical mail, but then
Hmm.
you've got your email inbox where you're getting your emails. And then you also have in your mind, right? You've got your tasks and your to-dos, and that's
Yeah.
a third inbox that we've identified. And
Hmm.
so what we have systems in place where as soon as you would get one, a piece of mail, whether it be, inbox, mailbox, or a thought that came into your mind, that we have a place to put all of that.
Hmm.
And the other thing I want to really stress is, when you are becoming organized or when you're hiring an organizer to help you with the back end, it's not a one and done. Many,
Right.
many, many people think I'm just going to hire you and I'm going to get organized and everything is going to be done. But that's really not the case. I mean, it's the art of having a system.
Hmm.
Sometimes I use the analogy of an ocean wave, right? You're seeing this ocean wave form, and as it's coming towards shore, it's picking up the sand and the shells, and it's landing on the shore, and then it's smooth. But then it
Hmm.
goes right back out again. So you've got this like ebb and flow in the ocean. And I feel like it's the same way with organizing, and especially when you're talking about offices and helping, small business owners and entrepreneurs. Everything isn't always in its place and perfect, but as
Hmm.
long as you have a system to fall back on to recover quickly,
Yeah.
That's truly the key.
Yeah. Yeah. It really, and I used to be in the automation world, of building automation so that, people could free up their time and be a lot more efficient. And again, not having things fall through the cracks.
Right.
But it all boils down to, a system. What's the system that you have for your business? And so I think that that's really important that we have to look. What can we systematize in the different areas of our business, because that's what's going to help us really achieve the results and the desires that we really have. So uh,
Yeah.
I like the fact that you brought up, that there's three different inboxes. So, obviously with the mailbox and, people who are familiar with kind of direct mail and things like that and marketing, one of the things that's always taught by marketers is that, when you're creating a direct mail piece, you have to imagine somebody standing over their trash can, going through their mail, and they're going to put this into a pile. I need to look at this now. I'm going to look at this later. I'm not going to look at this ever. It goes into file 13, right? Um, and so with the physical inbox, most of us, I feel probably, and maybe this is just me, but most of us go through our physical mail pretty quickly. We don't hang on to a lot of that stuff. Maybe there's a few things that, still clutter up the counter. But the email inbox that you talked about, there's this whole philosophy that I've heard, and one of my colleagues in the Keep Certified Partner community is really into this of inbox zero. What's kind of your thoughts on the inbox zero thing, or do you have another way to help people keep their email inbox kind of in a clean slate?
Yeah, it's funny you brought that up because in thinking about the emails or the inboxes and the mailboxes, I think about, if you see, like you just said, you gave a whole physical picture of getting mail from your mailbox and opening
Mhm.
it up. And then, you just quickly go through it and put it in its place. But our email, we tend to let that just build and build and build. And you think about it, there's people that have thousands, 10,000s, hundreds of thousands of emails that we would never allow that in our physical world. At least I
Right.
would hope not, right? I mean, we wouldn't allow that. So there's such a need, and people would say, "Oh, it's so great that we're so digital now, and
Mhm.
we don't need to keep a lot of paper, and my world is all focused, in my digital space." But we're actually more unorganized now than we've ever been, and
Yeah.
there's such a need for it because the fact that you can have thousands upon tens of thousands of emails and you don't tend to get rid of it right away because it's just a line on your screen as
Yeah.
opposed to something physical that you're holding. So, we do teach. There's a decluttering tool that we use to
Mhm.
get rid of, thousands of emails at a time, which is an amazing feeling, and it's actually very fulfilling.
Mhm.
It's checking that off the to-do list. And then we use a methodology to not so much focus on inbox zero, although I hate to throw that term around because it's something that's been thrown around quite a bit. And when
Mhm.
people hear it, they feel like you can't obtain that. There's no way
Right.
that's going to happen. But in reality, the system that we do have does give you that ability to have inbox zero.
Mhm.
And what we systemize once we've decluttered our clients' inboxes, then we dive into, how can we now systemize your email? And to look at email as, many people look at emails as I'm checking my emails, but what we really need to focus on is I'm processing my emails. It's a
Mm.
processing system.
Yeah.
And it's really important to focus on that piece.
Yeah. I love that you mentioned that because, yeah, like, oh, I check my email, 500 times a day. You read all these articles and stuff, and it's always using that term checking. But I love that you shifted that we need to be changing our mindset that we're processing our emails. And so much in life and in business is literally about, the words that we use, or the way we describe what it is that we're doing. I go back to, all the trainings and everything that I've heard from, Tony Robbins. Like, how do you feel in a certain situation? That's going to determine how you react or respond, right? Well, with our emails, are we just checking it? or are we actually processing it? It's going to have a total shift in how we're managing, those emails. Now, for me, I don't get to inbox zero. It used to be where my email inbox was like about 50 to 60 messages, and I was just starting to get overwhelmed by that. And now I try to keep it at about 20 to 25 at max. And then I've really learned to use the snooze button in Google Workspace, so that if I don't need to act on it today, but I know that I can act on it tomorrow or a week from now, then it disappears, and then it's going to remind me automatically for that. So I like that.
Yeah, that's really cool. Yeah, no, I mean, it's definitely, looking at just, what you had said also earlier that, you need a system to
Hmm.
for our work environment. But in reality, we thrive on systems.
Yeah,
People thrive on having schedules. And it really is, when you're coming in and you're doing these office transformations, digital transformations, the word overwhelm and clutter is so overused, but they're so spot on because that really is what you're doing. You're trying to, give people this system to get them not to feel that way. And there
yeah,
is, but and there's also like a correlation with just, feeling not overwhelmed and having this, just amazing, lighter feeling about yourself, right?
yeah,
You almost feel, you've got all this extra time where you can now focus on the things that you enjoy. There's also a quote that Barbara says that, we give you the system so you can accomplish your work and enjoy your life. And it's so true. I mean, that's
yeah.
it's really what it's, really what it's about. So,
Absolutely. So there's a couple other, I mean, we could go on all day because again, organization is kind of like a little hobby of mine, trying, or at least trying to stay. I'm nowhere in your league for sure. But for me, I have a Google Drive that has almost 3 terabytes worth of data in it. So obviously I am a hoarder of information and things that I've downloaded or created. And now I'm kind of like finding myself, struggling. It's like, I know that I have a resource, but I don't remember what it was named. I don't remember who it was by. And I've tried my best, to kind of keep things organized. So, like, anything that I've gotten from Brian Kurtz, for example, it's in my programs and resources shared drive, and then it's in a folder called Brian Kurtz. But I may not necessarily know what that item was named, or when it was downloaded, whatever. What's kind of a tip that you can share when it comes to decluttering our digital files, because it's easy to download stuff and then they just stay there forever because like space is free almost,
right,
um,
right.
but then also when it comes to the finding piece like you had talked about earlier.
Yeah. So, it's funny. I was just met with a client yesterday and he shared his screen and he showed me his workspace, his desktop, and then his procedures on how he saves documents and
Hmm.
files and folders. And, I said to him, in what you just said, you've got so much data. Where do you start? How do you go back and organize? And at some point, you have to ask yourself, are you willing to claim, digital bankruptcy, for lack of a better word? Are you willing to claim bankruptcy and say to yourself, let me just take all of this stuff that I've done in the past and archive it. And just
Hmm.
archive it, very simplistically, just take all these files and folders and archive them by year,
Hmm.
or by quarter, and then start fresh with what you can do today. Because also another a phrase that we say is today's mail is tomorrow's pile.
Yeah.
Many people want to go back and organize what they have, but
Mm.
but then you're missing what's happening today.
Yep.
So by focusing on today and really trying to help people implement a system that will make the immediate impact is really, one of our primary focuses.
Hmm. I like that. I really need to like internalize that more rather than saying, oh, I've got all of this other stuff that I really need to go through.
Right.
Like just draw the line, say
Yeah.
today forward is when I'm really going to start implementing this new plan. And then, if you have time and you want to, tackle little bits and pieces, later on, sure you could bring those into that new system. But I like the
Yeah.
fact that I'm not getting overwhelmed by thinking of all the stuff I've accumulated over the years.
Right. And we also offer in the digital transformation a complete system for organizing all your files and your folders.
Hmm.
So that also is like part of our, part of our digital transformation.
Awesome. Well,
Yeah.
the other inbox that you talked about, and I think that this is really key, is the tasks. The things that come up during the day, the phone conversations, the meetings that we have, the responsibilities that we need to do. And you know, a lot of times, we just scribble notes, or, they get put on sticky notes or, I've got a piece of paper on my desk that I, kind of like put things on, every day. And sometimes we don't even write it down. So it lives in our mind, like you mentioned. And I think, for a lot of entrepreneurs, as you mentioned earlier, that's where things can fall through the cracks, especially if it's just in our head, but then we need to pass it off to somebody else to do. But that also takes up space and kind of eliminates the freedom that we're looking for because those things will crop back up in our mind at the most inopportune times when we're having, dinner with family or when we're trying to sleep and we wake up at 2 o'clock in the morning, think, oh, I got to remember this thing. And, or it makes it difficult to get to sleep. So, if we can clear that inbox of our mind of the things that we need to do or things we need to remember, that can give us so much more freedom and enjoyment in life. So I'd love to kind of hear you speak on a couple tips on that.
Yeah, so it's really a powerful tool that we've created. We're calling it the SOAR board, and it's to systemize, organize your actions and your references in your mind.
Okay.
And so we've got it's very much aligned with how we teach our office and digital transformations.
Mm-hmm.
And so when the M, when you, and it's funny, focusing on our thoughts, I recently looked up a study. It was done at Queen's University in Canada, and they've proven that an average adult has 6,200 thoughts a day,
Oh,
which
wow.
is insane. And so we have to put that somewhere, right? So are we
Mm-hmm.
putting it on a sticky note, on our monitors, or like you said, writing it down, keeping it in notes apps and not knowing where it is?
Mm-hmm.
So it's an amazing task management tool where we can capture either by direct entry of putting it into the SOAR, what we're calling again the SOAR board in the inbox.
Mm-hmm.
And there's also a voice entry that you can do through your phone.
Oh,
So
nice.
anytime you're
Okay.
anywhere, you can pick up your phone and just say add to my SOAR board, and it's right there, and you're able to easily find it. The other additions that we've added to that is again aligning with our other transformations, and then asking the question when. When am I going to do this? Is this an immediate action? If it
Mm-hmm.
is an immediate action, I need to assign it a date. And if is it an immediate action that I'm working on a project? Or is it something like a permanent action? Is it do I need to call someone or am I waiting to hear back from someone? So
Mm-hmm.
all these things are captured in our SOAR board. And then the final piece is reference, just having, you've worked on a project, let's just say, but you don't want to just get rid of it and you don't know where to file it. And so
Mm-hmm.
then it goes into our reference. And so it's a natural progression. It's easy to use. And it's, again, just an incredible tool.
Wow, that sounds fantastic. And I love the fact that you've got the voice note because if you're out and about and you don't have a way to write something down, just we all have our phones with us all the time. So we still have a way that we can actually document that.
Yeah, it is. It's amazing.
That's
And
all.
just to quickly add, another example that I also want to give is personal life.
Mm-hmm.
And this is where the system truly integrates your personal and your professional. So many of us now work at home and we don't go into the big offices. And
Yeah.
so, our life happens, right? I mean, this is what's happening. And, I recently did some travel and my family knows that I have this system that I've built for them or for our family.
Hmm.
And I said to them, if anything ever happens to me, I want you to know that I created a hashtag and all they have to do is go into the system and type in the hashtag and everything will come up that's related to that. And it's basically all of my life insurance policies, my investments. And,
Hmm.
people tend not to talk about things like this, but,
Yeah.
and people also tend to become embarrassed when, they don't want someone to come in and help organize them because they don't want them to see their clutter. But
Mhm.
what, you need to really think about is what are you leaving behind?
Yeah.
Whether it be your family for personal or whether it be your business, your team,
Hmm.
and can they pick up and can they recover if something were to happen to you? So it's that peace of mind. And when you ask people, maybe you don't want to do it for yourself, but you do it for others, that's when they really sit back and think, wow, I do want to do this. So it's really a great piece that we can offer.
Yeah, no, I'm glad that you brought that up because, you know, just think of all of the families out there that, somebody passes away and they have no idea, what investment accounts that they had or what bank accounts, what life insurance policies. And it's already a stressful enough time because you're
Mhm.
grieving and then you have to try to figure all of those other things out. Whereas if we do that ahead of time, it makes life a lot easier for the loved ones that we're leaving behind.
Yeah. And then another piece that we've added to the system is in case of emergency.
Mm,
You look around the United States, you've seen, fires and, tornadoes and hurricanes, and it's just there's a lot of devastation.
yeah.
And, how amazing would it be if you lose everything that you're still able to access, you know, um, different policies that you have all the important information that you need, as far as your usernames, your passwords. I mean, all you need is access to the system, which you can access at any phone, any computer, and it's just again, it gives a peace of mind and a peace and a sense of calm over you that
Hmm.
you can't get from another system. So
Absolutely. And I love the fact that you mentioned, passwords because even, not, having all of the, natural disasters and fires and all that type of stuff, just the number of passwords that we have to keep on track of for all of the platforms that we have to go into. And I remember when I had my IT business, one of the first questions we'd ask when somebody is when they bring their computer in, what's your password for your computer? What's your password for this, that, or the other? And most people just had like this blank stare because they really didn't know or maybe they had it written down on a paper at home, but they didn't know if it was the most up to date, password.
right, right.
So having things like that in place can be time really saving a lot of time as well.
Yeah, I remember I did an office transformation and I had arrived at the office and I had gotten everything set up. And the first thing, of course, we had to do was, get on the internet. And they said, "Oh my God, I have no idea what our password is." And it was just so funny. I was like, "Well, if you have the system, you
You'll
would
be
know
able to
exactly
find
where to
us.
go and find it." So,
Absolutely.
yeah, it was funny.
Yeah. Well, we're getting up to our time here, and I know that you've got a great resource that our listeners can go to your website and get. Can you talk about that just a little bit?
Yeah, so if anyone's interested in working with me or finding out how I can help them, the first thing we do is we assess their office space or digital space, and we do that by having them take a survey. And you can find the survey at carlazwan.com. And there it's called the Productive Environment Scorecard.
Hmm.
And the survey takes less than 5 minutes. Afterwards, you'll get an immediate blueprint and game plan of the system that we use. And then you can book a call with me and I'm happy to offer a free coaching call. And we'll go over what your needs are. We'll go over what's not working, but we'll also review what is working because I also think that many people tend not to celebrate the small wins.
Mm-hmm.
And, it's super important. Many times many things aren't working, but the bookkeeping is working because they hired a bookkeeper and they have an accountant. And so it's important to recognize that because there's a system in place.
Yep.
And then you can see the power of having a great system.
Awesome. Well, Carla, I really appreciate you being here today. I know that this is a hot topic and a timely topic, as you mentioned, kind of at the top of the hour. That this is tax season, and so trying to get all of those documents so that we can make sure that we get everything reported to Uncle Sam. That's really important. So maybe there's no, not a lot of time this year to kind of get organized for this tax year, but definitely going into 2026's tax returns, that could be really powerful. So appreciate you being here today and sharing your insights. Before we wrap up, again, remember to go to Carla's website, carlazwaan.com, productive environment scorecard. And then, of course, after you take that quick survey, you'll get your office transformation blueprint. And we'll make sure that we have the address in the show notes as well so that you can go get those in case you're not anywhere where you can write that down right now. And if you're looking to supercharge your email marketing, check out my book, Hit the Inbox, at hittheinboxbook.com. It's packed with 76 pages of strategies to get your emails landing in inboxes and driving sales. Thanks for tuning in today. If you found value in this episode, please subscribe, rate, and review the podcast on your favorite platform. It helps us reach more entrepreneurs like you. And until next time, keep crushing it in the trenches.